Welcome back to my studio. I want to first explain the color mixtures that I'm going to be using on the walkway for this little craftsman cottage. This is a commission I'm doing for a longtime collector. This is her dream cottage. This is where she wants to build this one day and live in this, and it's just filled with all kinds of fun little special details just for Gina. But anyway, it has kind of a slate, kind of a flagstone type floor or walkway going up to the house. So here's my color mixtures. First of all, I want to explain my double primary palette. I've got my basic colors laid out here at the top of my palette. I use glass that's on a white board so that I work on a white canvas. I can mix my colors on the white, and that way I know exactly how they're going to look. We use white, use two yellows, lemon yellow and cadmium yellow medium. We use cadmium red light and alizarin crimson, and then I mix my cadmium orange with 2 parts of my cadmium yellow medium and 1 part of my cadmium red light. Then I have 2 blues, phthalo blue and ultramarine blue, and then this is my basic mixing mixture. It's a deep purple made that we call mud, and it's made of 1 part of the alizarin crimson and 2 parts of the ultramarine blue. So these 2 mixes are white plus my ultramarine blue plus a tiny bit of orange. All of these mixtures, all the brown mixtures here, are all mixes of my mud plus cadmium orange. So the mud plus cadmium orange, plus a little bit of my ultramarine blue, plus white. And those are all use those colors, but they're all in various proportions. So I can get a full range of my brown mixtures that I'm going to use for this slate walk. Then these colors here are white plus my ultramarine blue plus orange. And again, in different proportions, gives me this mix has more blue, these 2 have more of the orange, and this one has more of the white. But that gives you an idea of the variety of different colors, different shades that can be obtained from just these basic 6 colors, 2 yellows, 2 reds, and 2 blues, and white. That shows you what can be mixed with that. When I'm done at the end of the day, any extra color I have, I just put over here on the left side of my glass palette. And that allows me, it's oil paint, so it stays several days, very usable. So I can go back and use that if I need to. So that's my color mixes for the walkway going up to this beautiful little craftsman cottage. Okay, let's get to work now on the little walkway. I have already painted my walkway. I've used, again, all those mixtures that I was pointing out to you at the very beginning. I've applied them in really thick brush strokes, and I vary the colors, but basically the colors are cooler in the back and get warmer as they come forward. And even on the light area here, it's cooler as it goes back toward the steps, gets a little warmer as it comes up here. Now I'm going to show you, and this, I'll show you the brush. This is the brush that I use to apply that paint. Is big, make big thick brush strokes. This is called a bright brush. It's got a square end, and I prefer to use these brushes. I can get a variety of brush strokes with them. I can use the corner to make small detailed brush strokes, or I can use the flat to make larger brush strokes. Now I'm going to be adding the little crevices and cracks into this slate floor. And I'm using a mixture of my mud plus liquid, and again the mud is 2 parts of ultramarine blue and 1 part of alizarin crimson. And I'm just using a fine brush. Now I don't want to just outline each and every piece of slate. So I just kind of go along here and there, and because I don't want it to be real outliney, I just want to give the impression of these large flat stones. But one thing I want to do is I come in here and I start making some of my perspective lines just to give a visual guide to bring you into the house. And again, I'm not being just real specific, but I just want these general lines to give me the curve of that walkway. And I just do this into the wet paint. And just let my brush I start working around some of those splotches of color. And that gives the feeling then we've got different stones, different big stones that make that walkway. When I first started working on this piece, Gina sent me this picture, actually emailed me the image and I've printed it out. But she sent me that. She said, this is my dream cottage. I want to have you paint this, and then I want to add, we've added her dogs. This is Phoebe, this is Maddie. She loves cardinals. We put a cardinal in there. And Gina loves fall, and the big paint, or the image of the full painting, you saw the big fall foliage on the tree behind the house. We've added some maize on the front door and pumpkins and little rabbits down here. And she said, this all in good time, this is going to happen. So that's what we put on this sign here under the mailbox. We've got a few chipmunks out here on the Adirondack chairs out by the fire pit. And so this is just a very personal piece for Gina. And that's what I love about collaborating with my collectors, is we can just make their paintings really personal for them. Again, I just kind of let my brush strokes of the color determine where my little crevices are going to be. And I let the lines get finer and less distinct as we get back toward the back. Here we start coming around, but I want to add some more of my little perspective lines in here. And these cracks and crevices will get a little bit, these lines some of them will be a little bit heavier. If you've ever seen a slate or flagstone floor, the stones are uneven, and so even the crevices in between them are uneven. So you don't get just even lines. It's very impressionistic. But by having our perspective lines that come in a curve, that brings, having these guidelines here that follow that curve, that just helps give us that feel that this walkway is curving. We have our basic perspective, and then we have the odd little lines in between each of those flat stones. And again, I don't do each and every one. I just want to give that impression of those stones. Usually there's little dips in between, like where the stones come together. Sometimes those little dips are darker and might be a little more distinct. But you can see by working around the individual colors, it begins to feel like the stones are different. You get the feeling of those individual stones being little different shades. So there's our slate walkway. And again, I do this while the paint's wet, because if I waited until that paint was dry, it would be very difficult to do this. You want your paint to be wet of that big surface. And again, as we go back, the lines get a little fainter and a little bit closer together, because those stones will be in perspective, so they're going to appear smaller. And there we go. That's how I do that slate walkway. Now this brush, I have to say, this is one of the few brushes I use that is not one of my bright square brushes. This is a round. This is a number 4 round, and it's a pointed, you know, it comes to a really nice point. And so that's really good for this. That's, like I say, there's a few brushes I use that are not the bright brush, but the majority of the brushes I use are. Now I'm going to make just a little bit of some of these are going to get, in fact, I'm going to use a smaller brush here. Now this is called a fine liner brush. This is actually a sign painting brush. And I'm just going to highlight this front edge of some of these, not all of them, but just a few of these stones as we get closer. I need to make this a little bit lighter, so I add a little more white into that mixture. So just a few little highlights here and there. By doing this up front here, it helps to lift the front of that walkway up and just give us the impression that these stones are a little bit closer. This just gives them a little bit more detail. But again, I'm just not doing a ton of detail on this. Go back, here's a few. But once we get back toward the back, we're not going to have much of the highlight. Maybe here and there, but that gives us that brings that walkway forward. So there we go. There is our flagstone slate walkway, and I thank you for watching my YouTube videos. I do hope you'll come back and visit the studio, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to my blog. The link is in the description below. The address is also on the final frame of my video, and my blog shows the entire step-by-step process of this painting as well as others that I do. And just go to that link below, and you can always move back and forth between the blog posts. Just go up to the little title in the upper right corner to go forward, or the upper left corner to go backwards, and you can go through the process of the entire painting. So I thank you again, and you just have a wonderful, wonderful day, and stay safe. Be sure to keep your social distancing right now with the coronavirus out there, and just keep everyone in your prayers that God brings us through this and protects us, and just you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thank you again.